Okay, and this is a recap of my position on Stéphane Molyneux, religion, Thomas Reid. Parts 1 and 2 I think are important for background as to the full philosophy of what I think, but knowing a lot of you, you've probably skipped to this, and that's okay. So I'm going to give it to you in plain reading. I am glad that Stéphane Molyneux, an atheist, has decided to acknowledge that faith is something important, that faith is not something that can be explained away. A lot of people who are mechanistic reductionists have tried to explain it away as an evolutionary adaptation. Conspiracy theorists have tried to explain it away as through other means. The fact of the matter is, religion is an intricate part of the human experience. Even if you look at cave paintings, you would have to say that it's there in some form. However, what I believe is that if one is going to follow the path of the New Testament, if one is going to follow the narrow path, and I'm not a Christian, so I'm speaking as an outsider, to be very clear. If one is going to follow the narrow path, then one should not follow a form of civil idolatry. One should not follow the worship of a political system. Even if it's in the name of not worshiping the totalitarian state, or what Stéphane considers to be the state, okay, something that he calls the state. Even if, and I agree with not worshiping that, by the way. I agree with not worshiping that the state would be a form of idolatry, but I would also say that the market is potentially a form of idolatry. And that in the worship of that, one is putting one's very soul at risk. Because very clearly in the New Testament it speaks of the narrow path. And the narrow path, by the way, you guys seem to think it's all about not being a New Ager, not being a socialist, or not being a left-wing anarchist, or not being a Barack Obama supporter. The narrow path, as I understand it, is not following the broad path to destruction. The broad path to destruction is putting something before God, including one's own drives, one's own selfishness, one's own materialism. A lot of my regular science and math followers are going to be surprised that I'm speaking this religious language. But this is going to be kind of the new direction of the channel, to where I get back into math, and it's not so much the computational as set theory and metaphysics. I'm going to try to approach it from a very rigorous standpoint. Some of you may not want to stick around for that, and that is okay. Good luck to you. Wish you the best. This channel is not really for subscribers. It's for the message getting out. And I have to admit that I've departed from the clarity of the message, and so some videos are going to be trimmed, and we're going to get back to the important thing here, and that is the discussion of set theory, the absolute, and metaphysics. And so to really recap my position here, congratulations to Stéphane Molyneux for discovering that we're not going to be good without some reference to the vertical. That without a reference to the vertical, I'm talking about the spiritual vertical, really it would take an authoritarian state to keep people in line, or some sort of authoritarian system, because people won't be ethical. Now for you atheists, that may take a different form. That may take the form of philosophy. It may take the form of set theory or humanistic philosophy. But within that is embedded the vertical. You don't realize it, but it's there. For believing people, however, that's going to take the form of following a spiritual path, what believing people would call either in the East Enlightenment or in the West being born again. And this absolutely requires, you cannot follow this and follow the path of self at the same time. And that's the truth. If you do, it will be like the camel going through the eye of the needle. And for those who are materially rich, they can't, to really follow it, they have to be generous. They have to be willing to use their money for good. And that includes, by the way, not saying, well, this is my private property and that's all there is to it. No, I mean, in the Bible, in the New Testament, it does talk about Romans 13 and that, the rulers are there for good. Now, if you have an anarchistic perspective, that can maybe be reinterpreted, but it does say that in there. So for anarchists of the left or libertarians of the right who would call themselves spiritual people, it does say that in there. And for as long as this particular mode of organization called the state lasts, and it's admittedly imperfect, but if you're going to follow the path of religion, you're going to believe that it'll be transcended when it's in the plan for it to be transcended and not any sooner. So while it's here, they are ministers to do God's work. And among those will be some form of redistribution to help people. So I don't like everything the government does, believe me, but while I'm here, I respect that. And so, in summation, and maybe this has gone on too long, but I really need to drive this point home. You cannot be a follower of God and worship idols. You cannot be a follower of either Judaism or Christianity or Islam or the Abrahamic path and worship idols. You cannot be a spiritual person in the broad sense and worship ego. It's not possible. I'm imperfect. I'm not a perfect instrument, but I do recognize that this is a necessary step to take. And so let me take it now by trimming some of the egotistical stuff off the channel and trying to redirect it. Some ideas that maybe I no longer believe. There are some older videos that I no longer hold to. Some of them, some of the weirder stuff I don't know if I believe in as much anymore. So, meanwhile, in the axiom of choice, in set theory, there's the idea of an infinite set and the idea that in order to construct an infinite set, one needs the axiom of choice. Of course, you can't really have an infinite set constructed from other sets based on probability. It wouldn't work mathematically. There would have to be a choosing involved with that. And so may the one who chose bless in each and every single one of you. And you have a wonderful